Hello gang guys, it is Freeze700. We are back with what the fuck is Hive Fleet Hydra. Now, Hive Fleet Hydra is not to fuck with, and well, its main deal is that it swarms its opponents. Now, you may think Freeze700 is nothing really special about swarming when it comes to Tyranids because all the Tyranid fleets do that. They always swarm their opponents. What exactly are you talking about that their specialty is swarming? Well, we're going to get right into that. So, first let's begin with a little bit of lore. Where the fuck did these guys come from? As with any Hive fleet, they came from the deepest reaches of space, but this fleet actually comes from the galactic south, and they came right around, or slightly off, the same destination as Hive Fleet Leviathan came from. Now, what's interesting about this fleet is that they were actually dormant. They were woken up by the galaxy's inhabitants. They weren't woken up naturally, like they normally do. No, they were forced awake by a certain species who has a habit of fucking the galaxy, both physically and figuratively. This would be the one and only Drukhari, the Dark Eldar, specifically the Cabal of the Poisoned Fang, which not much is there about them. They're just dropped here as just a random cabal. But apparently they're significant because they have their own homunculi, which is pretty awesome. Now, homunculi love to scour the galaxy for new victims to experiment, /torture, /scientifically rape. One of these or all of these at the same time. Now, when it comes to the Drukhari, they were just exploring the galaxy and found this dormant Hive fleet, which is a really rare find. That's not that often you find just a Hive fleet sleeping in space, totally unreactive to your presence. Now, usually when it comes to other species, they would see this and just go, oh, okay. Well, let me call up a few friends, let me set up a few fireworks, and we're just going to have the biggest explosion the universe has ever fucking seen. Big Bang 2.0. Because I'm not risking this shit. The Drukhari, on the other hand, thinking with their dicks, they always go, ooh, I see a drunk, sleepy girl at a party. Well, I'm going to stick my dick in its mouth. Unfortunately for them, this drunk girl is actually a multi-mouthed, venomous thing that will just chop off your dick, which is pretty much what happened. The Drukhari boarded the vessel and immediately got swarmed, which is actually the strategy this fleet uses to its advantage. Now, you may think that's, again, dumb because every Tyranid fleet swarms. And you're right. But this fleet swarms in a different way. That's right, they're just built different. Get used to it. You see, they put a lot of spores in the atmosphere, so that way they just constantly raid you with constant bombardment of just unrelenting swarms of shit. Now, what's weird about them is that they don't seem to have any particular strengths. They just swarm. And to enhance that swarming capability, they make it where everything in the Hive fleet, even the ships themselves, have high breeding capabilities, which is unusual. But hey, it works. If you don't have an amazing Carnifex, but you do have 100,000 Hormagaunts, hey, no one's going to notice the difference. Shit, especially Hormagaunts, because they don't take much for the Hive fleet to produce, which is to the Hive fleet's benefit because the Hive fleet Hydra is actually small. They're actually a really tiny fleet. But they feel like you're fighting Hive fleet Behemoth just because of their sheer overwhelming numbers. Now, this Hive fleet is interesting for a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons that's very, very interesting about it is that its Synapse creatures are different. Now, usually when you kill a Synapse creature or synaptic node in the Tyranid army, you're going to cause confusion and disarray in their ranks, because now they lost their connection to the hive mind. But this Hive fleet developed a very different strategy to deal with this. Instead, what they do is that anytime their synaptic creatures die, they let out a psychic pulse screaming, hey, food's over here, come get it. And now what happens is all the Hormagaunts, Termagaunts, whatever low instinctual creatures that they have created is going to immediately flock to this beacon and just swarm whoever the fuck is there. Because mind you, this is the main fleet's specialty, is making low-grade troops who don't require a lot of brain mass, so they may actually end up eating each other, But that's fine, because there's so many of them, there's no way the enemy's going to be able to kill them all. Now, what makes this fleet very interesting, to my opinion, is that this is the only fleet that we've seen that just outright devours and attacks other Tyranids. Like, anytime the fleet encounters another splinter fleet of another Hive fleet, it just attacks it and devours it and consumes its genetic material. Which leaves a few theories as to what exactly is going on with this Hive fleet. Because this is not normal behavior. Usually when two Hive fleets meet, they exchange genetic information. They don't devour each other. They just exchange genetic information, or they may just go about their separate ways as they're on two separate missions. They just so happen to cross each other. Devouring, though, and butchering them, that's different. That's not normal. That's definitely not something the Tyranids would usually do. So, what kind of theories, Freezer 700, are you proposing? Well, there's a few of them, and I'm going to start with the one that I like the most. I personally theorize, this is theory number 1, that the Tyranid Hive Fleet Hydra is actually a janitor. Because you see, in my other lore video about the Tyranids, I talked about how Tyranids are the ultimate hunter-gatherers in the galaxy, in the whole universe. All they do is they go to a galaxy, pillage it, take everything that they need, and move on. Go to another galaxy, pillage it, move on. Go to another galaxy, pillage it, move on. Until they come back to the galaxy that they started with, pillage it again because now it's got new life, and then move on to the same galaxy they pillaged before. Now it's got new life. Move on. They're extremely hunter-gatherers to the extreme. Now, I would think Hive Fleet Hydra would serve as a janitorial service, where it's brought with the Hive Fleets, but it's not active until the Hive Fleets are done. Now, you may think, well, what's the use of that? Well, the way it attacks other Tyranids, my way of guessing is that it's ensuring that it doesn't stick around. It's ensuring that the next time it comes back, no one knows what it is. Like, let's say a new civilization pops up in a galaxy that just got ravaged by Tyranids. And now they just see these skeletons of Tyranids buried in planets that they couldn't necessarily purify, but they did eventually kill the people who did inhabit it. But they didn't molecularly disintegrate like they normally did because of certain circumstances. Like maybe they were immediately attacked, or they were distracted by something bigger, like a giant warp incursion. Who knows? Make up whatever mind you want. But in the end, these skeletons would still be around. They would still remain. And now the civilization would go, wow, look at these dinosaur bones. It's kind of strange we're seeing them on like 2 other planets. I think these guys may be the reason why certain civilizations just disappeared from the map. So how about we research these animals now and prepare for it maybe 10,000 years from now, maybe 1,000,000 years from now, but at least we know what it is and we keep a record of what it is, that this was a galactic threat. Well, now it's a problem for the Tyranids when they return, and all of a sudden these guys are like, hey, you remember in history class when someone said something about these dinosaur things? Yeah, let's go blast them with the guns that we specifically made like thousands of years ago just for this instance. And this is where I think Hive Fleet Hydra would fit as a janitorial service, where they just walk around the galaxy one last time while all the other Hive Fleets are gone. They're gone. They're going out doing their own thing. The hive mind may be too preoccupied with whatever it's sending those Hive Fleets to than to actually properly clean up its own shit. It may forget that it has a Hive Fleet just sitting around the galaxy, hibernating, not gathering any essence, not gathering any biomass, not doing anything. So it may just send the Hive Fleet Hydra and just say, hey buddy, you're up. Get in the galaxy. Whatever you find, whether it's remnants of civilization or remnants of me, wipe it out. And then come join the other fleets. That's what I think this is. It's kind of like a cleansing fire after the destruction. One of the other theories I have is that maybe Hive Fleet Hydra is actually more of a retreating button, where let's say they're losing, so they just simply send in this one last ditch effort where this fleet just swarms planet by planet on an individual basis rather than on a galactic scale. And that's all it does. It just goes planet by planet by planet and consumes whatever's in its way, no matter what. So that way, even if the Tyranids aren't able to take over the galaxy, they're able to at least skim something off the top, able to skim away with some resources before they leave. That makes sense to me as well. The last theory that I've seen people ask is they theorize that maybe Hive Fleet Hydra is actually a different hive mind. That maybe it's its own hive mind, that it's new, it's primordial. It's this primitive hive mind that's just scratching to the surface, just trying to regain its consciousness. And it's fighting the old hive mind. So it's just going around barbarically consuming everything in its way. That is interesting, but dear God, I hope that's not true. Because I really, really, really don't want to deal with Tyranid versus Tyranids, and it's because of something like that, rather than just simply the hive mind is such a big brain that it simply forgot it's got a janitorial service. That makes more sense to me, just being so big-brained it doesn't realize it. Because there has been multiple incidences in the books that support the theory that maybe the Tyranid hive mind is so big that it doesn't microcontrol its fleets the way we thought they do. Like if they release a certain signal or a certain hormone on a certain planet, all of a sudden the hive fleets will just glide towards those planets. Whereas the hive mind itself would be like, hey, that's a barren planet. Why the fuck are you going there? Like, I know it's a barren planet. I know it. But yet I'm still sending my fleets there. Why? Because I'm so big-brained, I can't micromanage everything. That would make more sense to me. But I'll leave it to you guys to decide. Now, you may think, swarming your opponents with shitty troops doesn't necessarily work. Well, have no fear. I have the Tyranid Codex with me. And to support their rather OP-ness, because I actually like them tabletop settings, I actually think this might be the new tabletop faction I'll play, just because of how fucking crazy they are. Get this. They have swarming instincts as their stratagems, where they can re-roll any hit rolls in the fighting phase that somehow missed. So if you have, let's say, 30 Hormagaunts and you just attacked one Dreadnought and only 6 of them hit, well, now you can have a good 24 of them, 24 of them, I'm bad at math, 24 of them re-roll their hits. Just the once. Also, they have this interesting bio-artifact that's specifically for their own fleet, mind you. This is only for their fleet. You can't mix and match this with other fleets. But they have Slimer Maggot Infestation, which is this nice little Slimer Maggot, which replaces the 2 Death Spitters with Slimer Maggots. And Slimer Maggots, as I said, are going to reproduce faster. So, what that translates to in-game is that means that any failed wound that you get with this weapon, you can re-roll. So now you got it where you can re-roll once for any time you miss a hit. Now you can re-roll if you hit them, but you didn't wound them. You see how crazy this can get really fucking quickly? It's like one way or another, I'm gonna hit you. And one way or another, that hit is definitely gonna wound you. Whether you like it or not, buddy. This is why Hive Fleet Hydra, I would say, is very powerful in a tabletop setting. Now, there are other things about other Hive Fleets that make them equally powerful, if not more. But the fact that they can just swarm you with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acid launchers and guns, and then just keep re-rolling any time that they miss, fuck, man, that's scary. That's a lot of DACA. That is definitely going to out-DACA the DACA masters, the orcs. That is crazy good. So, this has been for your 700. That's pretty much everything there is about the Hydra fleet. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys learned quite a bit of things. Like, one, that there's a subscribe button down below. It's big, red, shiny, and there's also a bell icon with it that you can also hit. And two, you're going to find out that I'm going to be your favorite lore master. I'm going to be your favorite guy to go to for Warhammer 40K lore and other lore, like Kingdom Under Fire or Legacy of Kain. If not, then, well, clearly you need to rewatch the video, and then you'll come to your senses eventually. Besides, that has been for your 700. I'm out. Peace.